My name is Olivia Anderson. I am 28 years old, and I live in a quiet, high-rise condo overlooking the skyline of Seattle. My phone buzzed on the glass desk. It was a message from the family group chat. I picked it up, expecting a time for dinner or a request to bring soda. Instead, I saw a text from my younger brother, Gage. "Don't come to the barbecue," he wrote. "My wife says you stink up the whole party." I stared at the words. Before I could even process the hurt, another notification popped up. My mother had reacted with a laughing emoji. Then my father added a heart. They weren't defending me. They were joining in. I didn't cry. I didn't type out a long, angry paragraph asking why they treated me this way. I just typed 2 words, "Got it." I set the phone down and picked up my expensive pen. In front of me lay a stack of documents for Nexara Biolabs, where I work as the Executive VP of Engineering. I was about to authorize a billion-dollar contract. My family thought I was a joke. They thought I was a failure. But as I signed my name on the dotted line, I made a silent promise to myself. No more begging for their love. No more explanations. They wanted me gone. Fine. I would let them find out exactly who they had just pushed away. And they would find out the hard way. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Olivia Anderson. I am 28 years old. I sat in my office chair for a long time after reading that text message. The screen of my phone had gone dark, but the words were still burned into my mind. "Don't come to the barbecue. My wife says you stink up the whole party." It wasn't just the words that hurt. It was the history behind them. It was the 28 years of being the punchline to every joke in the Anderson household. To understand why I typed "got it" and went back to work, you have to understand where I came from. I grew up in a house where being loud was good, being athletic was better, and being smart was weird. My brother, Gage, was the golden child. He was 2 years younger than me. He had a bright smile, he played football, and he could charm a $20 bill out of a stranger's wallet. My parents adored him. When Gage got a C on his report card, my mother would say, "Oh, the teacher just doesn't like his energy." When he got caught drinking behind the bleachers, my father laughed and said, "Boys will be boys." Then there was me. Olivia, I was quiet. I liked books. I liked taking radios apart to see how they worked. When I won the state science fair in 11th grade, I came home beaming, holding a large blue ribbon. My mother was in the kitchen cooking Gage's favorite pasta because he had twisted his ankle at practice. "Look, Mom," I had said, holding up the ribbon. She glanced at it over her shoulder. "That's nice, honey. Don't put it on the fridge, though. I don't want the magnets scratching the finish. Also, can you run to the store? Gage needs ice." That was my life. I was the background noise. I was the utility player. I was useful when they needed something fixed or an errand run, but I was embarrassing when I tried to be myself. They didn't understand what I did. To them, science was boring. It was for nerds. Even now, as the executive VP of Nexara Biolabs, they didn't know what my job title actually meant. They thought I worked in some lab. They imagined me washing test tubes or feeding rats in a basement. They had no idea I managed a team of 200 engineers and controlled a budget that could buy our entire hometown 3 times over. I never corrected them. Why? Because I was afraid. I was afraid that if they knew I had money, they would only love me for my wallet. I wanted them to love me, but the biggest secret wasn't my job. The biggest secret was the house. 3 years ago, Gage had come to me crying. He had just dropped out of college for the 2nd time. He had a girlfriend, not Tegan, someone else back then, and they needed a place to live. My parents didn't have the money to buy him a house. They were barely scraping by themselves. I couldn't stand to see my little brother cry. Even though he teased me, even though he ignored me when his cool friends were around, he was still my brother. So I did something stupid. I did something out of love. I bought a beautiful 3-bedroom house on Elm Street. It was a nice place with a big backyard and a new kitchen. I bought it under an LLC, a limited liability company, so my name wasn't on the public deed. I told Gage, "I know a landlord who is looking for a tenant. He's really nice. He says if you cover the utilities and keep the lawn mowed, he won't charge you rent for the first few years. He wants someone to just look after the property." Gage had hugged me. "You're a lifesaver, Liv, even if you are a nerd." I let that insult slide because he was happy. For 3 years, I paid the property taxes. I paid the insurance. I paid for the new roof when it leaked last winter. I paid for the plumber when Gage tried to flush a t-shirt down the toilet. I was his landlord. I was his benefactor. I was the reason he had a roof over his head. And now he was uninviting me to a barbecue in the very backyard I paid for. He was telling me I stink up the party, while standing on my grass, cooking on a grill I likely paid for indirectly, drinking beer in a house that belonged to me. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window of my office. The city of Seattle was spread out below me, gray and rainy, but full of energy. I looked at my reflection in the glass. I saw a woman in a tailored navy suit, hair pulled back in a sharp, professional bun. I didn't look like a weird science girl anymore. I looked like power. But inside, I felt like that little girl holding the blue ribbon, waiting for someone to say, "Good job." I thought about Tegan. Gage had married her 6 months ago. I had only met her a handful of times. She was loud, flashy, and obsessed with appearances. From the moment she met me, she sneered. She made comments about my boring clothes and my sad little job. "It must be hard," she had said at Thanksgiving, "working with chemicals all day. Does the smell ever wash off?" I had just smiled and sipped my water. "It's not that kind of lab," I had said gently. "Sure," she scoffed. "Gage says you're basically a glorified janitor for beakers." My parents had chuckled at the table. Dad had patted my hand. "It's honest work, Liv. Don't be ashamed." I wasn't ashamed. I was humiliated by their ignorance. And now, Tegan had decided I wasn't good enough to eat a hamburger in my own property. My phone buzzed again. I walked back to the desk. It was a private message from my dad. "Don't be mad at your brother, honey. Tegan is just particular. You know how women get. Maybe you can just send a gift card for the food, to show no hard feelings." I stared at the message. They kicked me out, and now they wanted me to pay for the food I wasn't allowed to eat. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was a quiet, metallic click, like a lock sliding into place. "No," I whispered to the empty office. I didn't reply to my dad. I put the phone in my drawer and locked it. I had a meeting in 10 minutes with the board of directors. I had to present the quarterly earnings. I had to be the shark everyone in this building knew me to be. I was done playing the victim. I was done being the weird sister. If they wanted to treat me like a stranger, I would introduce them to the stranger they had created. I sat down, opened my laptop, and prepared for my meeting. But in the back of my mind, a countdown had started. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing: the free ride was over. Saturday mornings at Nexara Biolabs were my favorite. The building was mostly empty. The frantic energy of the week was gone, replaced by the hum of servers and the quiet efficiency of the weekend cleaning crew. It was the only time I could really think. I was in my office on the 40th floor. The entire wall was glass, overlooking the bay. My desk was a slab of black marble. Everything in here screamed executive, from the leather chairs to the original modern art on the walls. I was reviewing the specs for a new prosthetic limb we were developing. It was delicate work, requiring absolute focus. The intercom on my desk beeped. I frowned. The reception desk in the lobby was usually empty on Saturdays, staffed only by a security guard. But today I had asked Sarah, my personal executive assistant, to come in to help with some filing. "Yes, Sarah," I pressed the button. Sarah's voice sounded tight, nervous. "Miss Anderson, I'm so sorry to disturb you." "It's fine, Sarah." "What is it?" "There are 2 people here to see you. Well, not you specifically. They are demanding to see whoever handles the money." I paused. "Who are they?" "They said they are family. A Mr. Gage Anderson and his wife." My blood ran cold. Gage, here, he had never visited my office. He didn't even know where exactly I worked, just the name of the company. He must have Googled it. "Send them up," I said, my voice steady. "Are you sure, ma'am? The woman is very agitated. Security can remove them." "No, send them up. I want to handle this." I stood up and smoothed my skirt. I walked over to the polished cabinet and poured myself a glass of sparkling water. I needed a moment to compose myself. Why were they here? The barbecue wasn't until tomorrow. The elevator doors at the end of the long hallway dinged. I watched through the glass wall of my office. Tegan stepped out first. She was wearing a bright red bodycon dress that was far too tight for a Saturday morning business setting. She had huge sunglasses perched on her head and was carrying a knockoff designer bag. Gage trailed behind her, looking uncomfortable in jeans and a polo shirt. He looked around the hallway, his eyes wide. He was taking in the expensive carpet, the silence, the aura of wealth. They walked down the hall, looking at the nameplates on the doors. "VP of Operations, CFO," Tegan read out loud, her voice shrill. Where is the investment guy? We need someone who cuts checks, Gage. I don't know, babe, Gage mumbled. Maybe we should call Olivia first, ask if she's working. Why? Tegan snapped. So she can embarrass us. She probably mops the floors here. We need a decision maker. They reached the end of the hall. They reached the double glass doors of my office. Tegan stopped. She looked at the large silver letters mounted on the wall next to the door. Executive Vice President of Engineering Olivia Anderson. She froze. She read it again. Her mouth opened slightly. Gage bumped into her. What's wrong? Then he saw it too. I pressed the button under my desk that opened the glass doors. They slid open with a soft whoosh. Come in, I said. I didn't stand up. I sat in my high-backed leather chair, my hands folded on the black marble desk. I looked at them the way I looked at underperforming vendors. Tegan walked in slowly, her heels clicking on the floor. She looked around the massive office, the view, the furniture, the awards on the shelf. She looked at me. What is this? She asked. Her voice wasn't shrill anymore. It was confused. This is my office, I said simply. You wanted to see someone who handles money. Gage looked like he was going to be sick. Liv, you work here, like in this room. I run this division, Gage. I thought you knew. We thought you were a technician, he whispered. You thought what you wanted to think, I replied. Why are you here? Tegan recovered first. She was a grifter at heart, and she smelled opportunity. She straightened her posture and put on a fake plastic smile. She walked right up to my desk and dropped a glossy folder onto my paperwork. Well, this is even better, Tegan exclaimed. We don't have to deal with strangers. Family helps family, right? I looked at the folder. The cover said G&T Lifestyle Brand Investment Opportunity. What is this? I asked. It's our future, Tegan said, leaning forward, placing her hands on my desk. I hated that she was touching my things. I'm launching a lifestyle brand, influencer stuff, makeup, clothing, consulting. We need seed money, investors. How much? I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. $2 million, Tegan said. She said it like she was asking for $20. To start, we need inventory, a studio, marketing, and since you're obviously loaded, she gestured around the room, you can write the check today. We'll cut you in for 5%. I looked at Gage. He was staring at his shoes. He knew this was wrong. He knew they had just told me yesterday that I stank, but he was too weak to stop her. Yesterday, I said softly, you told me not to come to your house because I smell. Tegan waved her hand dismissively. Oh, that was just a joke, Liv. You know how we joke. Don't be so sensitive. We're talking business now. You want $2 million, I repeated. It's an investment, Tegan insisted. You'll make it back in a year. I stood up then. I am tall, and in my heels I towered over Tegan. No, I said. Tegan blinked. What? No, I am not investing. I am not giving you money, and I am not family when it's convenient for your bank account. Tegan's face turned red. The fake smile vanished. You selfish bitch. You sit in this ivory tower with all this money, and you won't help your own brother. He's drowning in debt. We need this. That sounds like a you problem, I said. I pressed the intercom button. Sarah, send security to my office. 2 escorts. You wouldn't dare, Tegan hissed. I just did. Gage, Tegan screamed at my brother. Do something, tell her. Gage looked at me, his eyes pleading. Liv, please, just listen to the pitch. Tegan worked really hard on it. Did she work as hard on it as she did on the text message insulting me? I asked. Gage flinched. 2 uniformed security guards appeared at the door. They were large men, professional and imposing. Miss Anderson, one of them asked. Please escort these visitors out of the building, I said, sitting back down and picking up my pen. They were just leaving. Let's go, the guard said, stepping toward Tegan. Don't touch me, Tegan shrieked. She grabbed her folder. You're going to regret this, Olivia. You think you're better than us, you're nothing. You're just a lonely, miserable spinster with a checkbook. Goodbye, Tegan. Goodbye, Gage. I didn't look up as they were marched out. I heard Tegan screaming all the way down the hallway. I heard the elevator ding. Then, silence returned. My hand was shaking slightly as I held the pen. It wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. It was the realization that the line had been crossed. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as an ATM that they could insult and withdraw from at the same time. I took a deep breath. I thought it was over. I thought I had made my point. I was wrong. It was just beginning. The silence didn't last long. By the time I got home that evening, my phone was blowing up. Gage had called 6 times. My mother had left 3 voicemails. I listened to one of them while I poured a glass of wine in my kitchen. Olivia, it's Mom. Gage called me. He's crying. He said you threw them out of your office. He said you humiliated Tegan in front of your employees. How could you? They went to you for help. We raised you to support each other. Call your brother and apologize immediately. Apologize, I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. I deleted the voicemail. I sat on my sofa trying to decompress. My house was quiet. It was a modern, minimalist condo downtown. It was mine. I paid for it. I didn't owe anyone anything. Then my phone pinged with a different kind of alert. It wasn't a text. It was an email notification from my bank, Wells Fargo. Alert, new credit inquiry. I frowned. I wasn't applying for credit. I opened the app. Alert. A loan application for $480,000 has been submitted in your name. My heart stopped. I clicked for details. It was a small business loan application. The co-signer listed was Gage Anderson. The primary applicant was Olivia Anderson. They hadn't just asked for money, they were trying to take it. I scrolled through the details. The application had been submitted online an hour ago. They had used my old home address, my parents' address as my residence. They had used my social security number. How did they have it? Then I remembered. A few years ago, when I was helping my parents refinance their mortgage, I had left some tax documents at their house in a file cabinet. Gage must have gone to Mom and Dad's house, raided the file cabinet, and stolen my identity. I felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was a felony. I dialed the number for my private banker, Mark. It was Saturday night, but Mark handled high-net-worth clients. He picked up on the second ring. Olivia, everything okay? Mark, listen to me carefully. I just got a fraud alert. Someone is applying for a loan in my name. I see it, Mark said, his voice switching to professional mode instantly. I was actually just looking at it. It got flagged because the IP address is residential and doesn't match your usual activity. Did you authorize a loan for G&T Global? No, I said firmly. Absolutely not. It's a fraudulent application. Okay, I'm rejecting it right now. Olivia, the co-signer, is a Gage Anderson. Is that a relative? I closed my eyes. Yes, my brother. There was a pause on the line. Olivia, this is serious. This is identity theft. Do you want to file a police report? If we flag this as criminal fraud, the bank is obligated to notify the authorities. I hesitated. This was my little brother, the boy I taught to ride a bike, the boy I bought a house for. If I filed a report, he could go to jail. But then I remembered Tegan's face in my office. You're just a lonely, miserable spinster with a checkbook. I remembered the text. Don't come to the barbecue. They were trying to ruin my credit. They were trying to steal $500,000 from me because I said no. Do it, I said. Flag it, freeze everything, put a lock on my credit reports, and Mark, yes, if they try again, I want to know immediately. Understood. I'm sorry you're going through this, Olivia. I hung up. I felt cold. The attacks didn't stop there. 10 minutes later, my phone started vibrating with message after message. It was the family group chat. Gage, you blocked the loan. Are you insane? We were approved. You ruined it. Tegan, you are a jealous, bitter woman. You don't want us to succeed. You want us to be poor like you used to be. Mom, Olivia, please just sign the paper. Gage says it's just a formality. He promises to pay it back. Don't be difficult. Dad, family helps family. Olivia, this is going too far. They were gaslighting me. They were rewriting reality in real time. They were framing me as the villain for preventing them from robbing me. I didn't reply. I took screenshots of everything. The loan alert. The texts, the timestamps. I created a folder on my computer named Evidence. I was shaking, but I wasn't crying. The sadness was gone. It had been replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I was an engineer. I solved problems. And my family had just become a problem that needed to be solved. I went to the kitchen and made myself a sandwich. I ate it standing over the sink, staring into the darkness of my living room. I felt entirely alone in the world. But I wasn't entirely alone. Because just as I finished eating, the doorbell rang. I checked the security camera on my phone. There was no one at the door, just a small package sitting on the welcome mat. I walked to the door, unlocked it, and looked out. The hallway was empty. I looked down. It was a brown manila envelope. There was no postage on it. It had been hand-delivered. I picked it up. It was thick, heavy. I brought it inside and sat at the dining table. I turned it over. Written on the front in shaky, familiar handwriting was one word. Olivia. I recognized the handwriting. It was my father's. My hands trembled as I held the envelope. My father, he had been texting me just minutes ago, telling me to help Gage. He had been part of the laughing emojis in the group chat. Why would he send me a secret package? I tore open the seal. Inside was a thick stack of papers, clipped together. On top was a handwritten note on a piece of yellow legal pad paper. Livy, I know you think I'm blind. I know you think I always take his side. Maybe I do. Your mother loves him so much and I can't fight her on it. I'm a coward, I know that, but I'm not stupid. When Gage married Tegan, something didn't sit right with me. She knew too much about money, but she never seemed to have any. She talked about assets and leverage, but she drove a car that was 3 payments behind. 6 months ago, I took some money from my retirement account, don't tell your mother, and I hired a private investigator. A guy named Miller. I told him to look into Tegan. I got this report yesterday. I was going to show Gage, but he won't listen to me. He's under her spell, and your mother, she would just say it's fake. But you're smart, you're the smart one. You always were. They are going to destroy each other, Livy, but don't let them destroy you. Please handle this, I can't. Love, Dad. I stared at the note. Tears pricked my eyes, you're the smart one. It was the first compliment he had given me in years, and it was hidden in a secret note while he publicly sided against me. He was a coward, just like he said. He was throwing the grenade to me so he didn't have to pull the pin. But he had given me ammunition. I set the note aside and picked up the report. It was 42 pages long. Subject, Tegan Miller, nay Brooks. I started reading. The first few pages were standard background checks. Addresses in Atlanta, Miami, Dallas. She moved around a lot. Then came the financial history. It was a bloodbath, 3 bankruptcies in 10 years, 6 civil judgments for unpaid debts. But the real horror story was on page 12. Former spouse, Maverick Jones. Tegan had been married before, 5 years ago, to a man named Maverick Jones in Atlanta. The report detailed the divorce proceedings. It was a nightmare. Tegan had taken out 7 credit cards in Maverick's name without his knowledge. She had maxed them out, over $80,000 in luxury goods, vacations, and clothes. She had forged his signature on a car loan. When the debt collectors came calling, Maverick lost everything. He lost his house. He lost his business. He ended up living in his truck for 6 months. Tegan had claimed emotional abuse and left him with the debt, moving to a new state to find a new victim. And now she was doing the exact same thing to Gage. I flipped to the section on Gage. The pie had dug deep. Current liabilities, Gage Anderson credit cards, $45,000 maxed out personal loans, $30,000 high-interest auto loan, $60,000 for a Range Rover registered to Tegan but the loan is in Gage's name. Total debt, over $180,000. And that wasn't all. The report showed that Tegan had recently inquired about life insurance policies. For Gage, my stomach turned. She was bleeding him dry. She was a parasite. Gage was an idiot, and he was cruel to me, but he was being dismantled piece by a professional con artist. And now they were targeting me. The $480,000 loan application made perfect sense now. Tegan had run out of credit with Gage. She had tapped him out. She needed a fresh host. I was the fresh host. I sat back in my chair. The room felt very still. My father wanted me to handle it. He wanted me to save the family because he was too weak to do it himself. I looked at the date on the report. It was current. I looked at the name of the ex-husband, Maverick Jones. The report had his current contact info. He was working as a mechanic in Atlanta. I picked up my phone. It was late, but I didn't care. I dialed the number for Maverick Jones. It rang 4 times. Yeah, a rough, tired voice answered. Is this Maverick Jones? I asked. Who's asking? My name is Olivia Anderson. My brother is married to Tegan Brooks. There was a long silence on the other end. A silence heavy with pain and anger. I'm sorry to hear that, Maverick said finally. Hang up and run, lady, that's my advice. I'm not going to run, I said. I'm going to stop her. But I need your help. Why would I help you? Because she stole your life, I said. And I can help you get a piece of your dignity back. I want to fly you to Seattle. Tomorrow morning. First class. What for? A family reunion, I said coldly. We have a barbecue to attend. There was a pause, then a low chuckle. What time is the flight? Maverick asked. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I'll text you the details. Pack a bag, Maverick, we're going to war. I hung up the phone. I looked at the file one last time. Then I looked at the invite text Gage had sent me. Don't come to the barbecue. Oh, I was coming. And I was bringing the main course. Sunday morning arrived with a gray, drizzling sky, the kind of Seattle weather that seeps into your bones. But I didn't feel the cold. I felt a burning, focused energy. I drove my Audi to SeaTac Airport to pick up Maverick Jones. I had never seen him before, not even a photo, but I knew him the moment he walked out of the arrival gate. He looked like a man who had been chewed up by life and spit out. He was tall, wearing a faded denim jacket and work boots, carrying a small duffel bag. He had the weary eyes of someone who expected bad news around every corner. I waved. He walked over, eyeing my expensive coat and heels. "Olivia," he asked. His voice was gravelly. "Maverick, thank you for coming." "You bought the ticket," he shrugged. "And you said I could see Tegan panic. I wouldn't miss that for the world." We didn't talk much on the drive back. I took him to a diner near the city for breakfast. Over coffee and eggs, I showed him the file my father had sent. He flipped through it, his jaw tightening. "Yeah," he said quietly, tapping a page. "That's her. She did this to me with a boat. Bought a boat in my name. I don't even like the water. By the time I found out, she had sold it for cash and left me with the loan." "She's doing it to my brother now," I said. "She's trying to do it to me." Maverick looked at me. "So what's the plan? We just walk in." "We walk in," I said, "and we end it." We drove to Elm Street. It was late afternoon by the time we pulled up to the curb. My brother's truck was in the driveway. Tegan's leased Range Rover, which I now knew was in Gage's name, was parked behind it. The house looked nice. I felt a pang of bitterness looking at the flower beds I had paid for, the front door I had painted 3 years ago. I walked up the path, Maverick a step behind me. I didn't knock. I had a key. It was my house, after all. I unlocked the door and pushed it open. "Gage," I called out. I heard shuffling from the living room. Gage appeared in the hallway, wearing sweatpants, holding a beer. He looked tired. When he saw me, his face hardened. "What are you doing here, Liv? I told you, Tegan doesn't want to see you. Especially after yesterday." "I'm not here to apologize, Gage," I said, stepping into the foyer. "I'm here to introduce you to someone." I stepped aside. Maverick stepped forward. Gage frowned, confused. "Who is this?" "Your bodyguard." Then Tegan walked into the hallway. She was wearing a silk robe, holding a glass of wine. "Gage, who is at the—" She stopped. The color drained from her face so fast it looked like she might faint. The glass of wine wobbled in her hand, red liquid sloshing over the rim onto the hardwood floor. "Hello, Tegan," Maverick said. Maverick," she whispered. Gage looked between them. "You know him." "I'm her husband," Maverick said. "Well, ex-husband, the one she left with $80,000 of debt." "He's lying," Tegan screamed immediately. The panic in her voice was instant and high-pitched. "Gage, get him out of here. He's a stalker. He abused me." "I have the court documents right here," Maverick said calmly, reaching into his jacket and pulling out a folded stack of papers. He tossed them onto the hallway table. "Bankruptcy filing. Police reports for fraud, and the letter from the credit card company where you forged my signature." Gage looked at the papers, then at Tegan. "Babe, what is this?" "Don't look at it," Tegan shrieked. She lunged for the papers, but I stepped in between. "Read it, Gage," I said. Gage picked up the papers with shaking hands. He read the summary. He looked at the dates. You filed for bankruptcy 3 months before we met," Gage asked, his voice trembling. "You told me you were a successful interior designer." "I was," Tegan cried. "I had bad luck. He ruined me." "She maxed out your cards yet, kid?" Maverick asked Gage. "Started talking about life insurance." Gage went pale. He looked at me. "Liv, she asked about a policy last week." The silence that followed was heavy. Tegan looked cornered. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, looking for a lie that would stick. "This is a setup," she yelled, pointing at me. "You're jealous. You brought him here to ruin my marriage because you're a lonely, bitter spinster." "I'm not here to ruin your marriage," I said calmly. "I'm here to evict you." I reached into my purse and pulled out a single document. It was a blue folder. I slapped it down on the table next to Maverick's papers. "What is that?" Gage whispered. "The deed to this house," I said. Tegan froze. "What? No, Gage rents this from a landlord." "I am the landlord," I said. "I bought this house 3 years ago under an LLC. I paid for the roof. I paid for the taxes. I let you live here for free because I loved my brother." I looked at Gage. He was staring at me with his mouth open. You own the house?" he stammered. "I do. And since you've decided that I stink up the party, and since your wife is trying to steal $500,000 from me," I pointed to the door. You have 30 days to vacate. Consider this your official notice. Tegan's face twisted into ugly rage. You can't do that, we have rights, squatters' rights. You have a lease agreement, I corrected her. I signed it as the LLC manager. It has a termination clause for criminal activity, and identity theft is criminal activity. Gage collapsed. He literally slid down the wall and sat on the floor, putting his head in his hands. He started to sob. It wasn't a quiet cry. It was the sound of a man whose entire world had just shattered. Tegan stood over him, screaming that I was a witch, a liar, a thief. Come on, Maverick, I said. We're done here. We walked out. As I closed the front door, I could still hear Tegan screaming at Gage to man up and do something. I got in the car. My hands were steady. You okay? Maverick asked. I will be, I said. Let's get you to your hotel. If I thought the confrontation on Sunday was the end, I was naive. It was just the declaration of war. The next morning, Monday, I went to work as usual. I needed the routine. But my phone became a war zone. By 9 a.m., Gage had sent me 40 texts. Liv, please don't do this. Tegan is just stressed. She didn't mean the identity theft, she was just trying to surprise me with the business. We have nowhere to go. Mom and Dad are going to kill you. Then came the text from my parents. Mom, Olivia Marie Anderson, call me right now. Tegan says you brought a strange man to their house and threatened them, and you own the house. How could you lie to us for 3 years? You are tearing this family apart. Dad, this is cruel, Olivia, even for you. Tegan is fragile. You need to apologize and fix this loan situation. They need money, not eviction notices. I read the messages during my coffee break. They didn't ask if Tegan was a criminal. They didn't ask if I was okay after having my identity stolen. They only cared that the boat was rocking. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I called my lawyer. Proceed with everything, I told him. Full eviction, and I want to file a formal police report regarding the fraudulent loan application. I want it on record. Are you sure? My lawyer asked. Once we file the report, the district attorney might pick it up. Your sister-in-law could face jail time. I'm sure, I said. She didn't care if I lost my credit. I don't care if she loses her freedom. By Tuesday, Tegan had changed tactics. I received an alert from my credit monitoring service. Another inquiry, this time for a luxury car lease. She was desperate. She was trying to grab as much cash or assets as possible before the ship sank. Because I had frozen my credit, the application was instantly denied. Tegan must have realized the walls were closing in. She started posting on Facebook. She wrote long, rambling posts about toxic in-laws and rich people who think they can control you. She tagged me. She tagged my company. It's so sad when family chooses money over love. My sister-in-law Olivia Anderson, VP at Nexara, is kicking us out on the street because she's jealous of our happiness. Please pray for us. I watched the likes roll in. My cousins liked it. My aunts liked it. It hurt, I won't lie. It felt like the whole world was believing a lie. I wanted to comment. I wanted to post the bankruptcy records. But I stopped myself. No explanations, I had promised. I let her dig her hole. On Wednesday, my mother showed up at my office building. Security called me. Miss Anderson, your mother is here. Tell her I'm in a meeting, I said. She says she won't leave until she sees you. She's crying, ma'am, I sighed. I went down to the lobby. Mom was sitting on a bench near the fountains, clutching her purse. She looked older than I remembered. When she saw me, she stood up, her face wet with tears. How could you? She sobbed, loud enough for the receptionist to hear. Gage is your brother, you're making him homeless. He's not homeless, Mom, I said quietly, keeping my distance. He has 30 days, and he has a job. He can rent an apartment like an adult. He can't, she cried. His credit is ruined, Tegan said. Tegan ruined his credit, I interrupted. Not me, Tegan stole his money. Tegan stole my identity, Mom. She tried to steal $500,000 from me. Did you ask her about that? Mom waved her hand dismissively. Oh, that was just a misunderstanding. She explained it to us. She mixed up the paperwork. She thought you would want to be a partner. I stared at her. The delusion ran so deep it was terrifying. She used my social security number without asking, I said. That's a felony, Mom. It's not a mix-up. You're so cold, Mom whispered, shaking her head. You've always been cold. You care more about your rules and your money than people. If you go through with this eviction, don't bother coming to Christmas. Don't bother coming to anything. I felt a crack in my heart, but I also felt a weight lift. Okay, I said. Mom blinked. What? Okay, I repeated. If that's the choice, let Tegan rob me or lose my family, then I choose to lose the family. Mom stared at me, shocked that her ultimatum hadn't worked. I turned and walked back to the elevators. I didn't look back. Memorial Day arrived the following Monday. The family barbecue was an institution. Every year, aunts, uncles, cousins, and neighbors gathered. Usually it was at my parents' house, but this year, it was scheduled for Gage's house. My house. I hadn't been uninvited formally, other than that first text. And since I was the owner of the property, I had every legal right to be there. I dressed carefully. I wore a sharp white blazer and dark jeans. I looked professional, calm, and rich. I drove to Elm Street around 2 p.m. The street was lined with cars. I could smell the charcoal smoke. I could hear music. I grabbed the thick manila folder from my passenger seat. This was the folder containing everything. The deed, the eviction notice, the police report number for the identity theft, the PI report on Tegan's past. I walked into the backyard. There were about 30 people there. My dad was at the grill. Mom was handing out potato salad. Gage was sitting at a picnic table, looking pale and thin, drinking a beer. Tegan was holding court near the cooler, laughing loudly, wearing a sundress. The conversation died as I walked onto the grass. Tegan saw me first, her smile dropped. "What are you doing here?" she shouted. "Gage told you not to come." My dad looked up from the grill. He looked terrified. He knew what I knew. "I'm here to check on my property," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the yard. "Get out," Tegan screamed. She marched toward me. "This is our house, you are trespassing." "Actually," I said, walking past her to the main picnic table. "I'm not." I dropped the heavy folder onto the table, right between the bowl of baked beans and the platter of corn. It made a loud thud. "What's this?" my Uncle Steve asked, holding a hot dog. "Public records," I said. I opened the folder. I spread the papers out. "This," I pointed to the first document, "is the deed to this house. It belongs to Olivia Anderson Holdings LLC. I bought it 3 years ago so Gage wouldn't be homeless." A gasp went through the crowd. My cousins whispered. "And this," I pointed to the next paper, "is the eviction notice I served them last week. Because Tegan hasn't paid rent ever, and because she committed a crime on the premises." "Liar," Tegan shrieked, trying to grab the papers. I caught her wrist. My grip was iron. "And this," I said, ignoring her struggling, "is the police report filed 3 days ago. For identity theft. Tegan tried to take out a $480,000 loan in my name using stolen documents." I looked at my family. My aunts looked horrified. My cousins were pulling out their phones. "And finally," I said, pulling out the PI report, "this is the record of her previous marriage, where she bankrupted her husband, Maverick Jones, and left him with $80,000 in debt. Just like she has currently done to Gage, who is sitting on $180,000 of debt right now." All eyes turned to Gage. He was crying again. He looked small, broken. "Gage," my mom whispered. "Is this true?" Gage nodded slowly. She spent it all, Mom. I have nothing. The truck is gone. The accounts are empty." Tegan looked around. She saw the judgment in everyone's eyes. The neighbors were watching over the fence. The family was backing away from her. She melted down. "It's his fault," she screamed, pointing at Gage. "He's a loser. He couldn't give me the life I wanted. And her," she pointed at me. "She's a hoarder. She has millions and she won't share. She's evil." "I'm not evil, Tegan," I said softly. "I'm just done." I looked at my parents. They stood frozen by the grill. They had enabled this. They had watched me be treated like dirt for years, and even when they knew Tegan was a fraud, they asked me to pay her off to keep the peace. "You all have a nice afternoon," I said. I turned to leave. "Olivia, wait," Gage called out. He fell to his knees in the grass. It was pathetic. "Please, don't kick us out. I'll divorce her. I promise. Just help me one more time." "Please," I stopped. I looked at my brother on his knees. I remembered buying him ice cream when he was 5. I remembered helping him with his homework. But I also remembered the text. "Don't come to the barbecue." "You had 30 days, Gage," I said. "You used them to lie to me and try to steal from me. You're a grown man. Figure it out." I walked out of the gate. I got into my car. I didn't cry. I turned on the radio, found a classic rock station, and drove away. The fallout was fast and brutal. The eviction proceeded without delay. Tegan tried to fight it in court, but she didn't have a lawyer, and my documentation was perfect. The sheriff arrived exactly 30 days later to escort them out. I heard from a neighbor that Tegan screamed the entire time, throwing clothes onto the lawn. Gage just sat on the curb, his head in his hands. The police investigation regarding the loan fraud moved forward. Because I refused to drop the charges, the district attorney picked up the case. It turned out Tegan had done this before in other states, but the victims had been too embarrassed to press charges. I wasn't embarrassed. She was arrested 2 weeks after the barbecue. She was charged with wire fraud and identity theft. She is currently awaiting trial, and since she has prior civil judgments for similar behavior, her lawyer is trying to cut a plea deal for minimal jail time. Maverick, her ex-husband, actually flew back up to Seattle to testify at her bail hearing. He told me it was the best vacation he'd ever taken. As for Gage, his life collapsed. The background check for his job flagged his massive debt and the pending civil lawsuits from creditors. He worked in sales, and he was considered a liability. He was fired. Without an income, and with his credit score in the low 400s, he couldn't rent an apartment. This is where the family values of my parents finally cost them. They couldn't let their golden child be homeless. So they did exactly what I knew they would do. They sold their house, the house I grew up in, to pay off Gage's most urgent debts so he wouldn't go to jail for bad checks. They downsized to a 2-bedroom rental apartment. Gage lives in the 2nd bedroom. I hear through the grapevine that it's a miserable existence. Tegan is gone. She fled back to the East Coast the moment bail was posted, leaving Gage with all the debt she accrued in his name. My parents spend their days arguing about money and blaming the unfair system. Occasionally, they try to blame me. My mother sent me a letter last Christmas. I hope you're happy in your big glass tower while your family suffers. You could have fixed all of this with one check. I burned the letter in my sink. I didn't fix it because I didn't break it. They broke it. I just refused to pay for the repairs. As for the house on Elm Street, I sold it. I sold it for a profit. I took that money and started a scholarship fund for girls in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Girls like me who were told they were weird for liking smart things. Every year, I pay for 2 girls to go to college. That is a better legacy than enabling a brother who hates me. It has been 6 months since the barbecue. My life is quiet now, but it is a peaceful quiet. It's not the lonely silence I used to fear. It's the silence of safety. I changed my phone number. I blocked every email address associated with my family. I even changed gyms just in case. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I was too harsh. I wonder if I should have given Gage one more chance. He is my blood, after all. But then I remember the feeling of that text message. You stink up the whole party. And I remember the feeling of Tegan standing in my office, demanding my money. I realized that family isn't about whose DNA you share. It's about who respects you. It's about who stands by you when you're holding the blue ribbon, not just when you're holding the checkbook. I am still the executive VP at Nexara. I am still single, though I've started dating a nice architect named David. He thinks my job is fascinating. He listens to me. I am sitting on my balcony right now, looking at the Seattle skyline. I have a glass of wine in my hand. My phone is on the table and it is silent. No drama, no demands. No insults. Protecting yourself sometimes means cutting out the poison, even if the poison is your own flesh and blood. It hurts to cut, but it heals. I picked up the pieces of my dignity and built a fortress. And inside this fortress, the air is clean. If you are reading this and you are the weird one or the bank for your family or the joke, listen to me. Stop begging. Stop explaining. Stop paying. Let them fall. Let them see what life looks like without you holding them up. Because one day, they will realize exactly who they underestimated. And by then, you'll be too far away to hear their apology. And trust me, it's a beautiful sound.